Good morning, my friends. We're going to be continuing to learn the laws of ethics in the Rambam. Today we are going to be learning chapter 2, in where he continues to tell us the various ways a person should live his life and how we are supposed to have our various character traits, etc., as we will see. So the laws of ethics, Hilchot Deot, chapter 2. And the Rambam says as follows: to those who are physically sick, the bitter tastes sweet, and the sweet tastes bitter. Some of the sick people even are want to eat things that are not healthy for them, and they'll eat like earth or charcoal, things that could be very hurtful to their body. And things which are healthy, they despise and they don't want to eat. All depending on how serious their sickness is. So the Rambam says, similarly, in the same way, there are people who are morally ill, and they desire and love bad traits, and they hate the good path, and they are lazy to follow it. Depending how sick they are, that's how bad it's going to be. As Isaiah says, woe to those who call the bad good and the good bad, who take darkness to be light and light to be darkness, who take bitter to be sweet and sweet to be bitter. So that's exactly what these people are doing. So, what's the way out? How does one become healthy from such a problem? Well, if you're sick in your body, so you have to go to a doctor who is able to make you healthy. Similarly, someone who is sick in their moral value or in their ethical level, they have to go to a doctor who is able to help them on such a level, to a spiritual doctor, a doctor of the soul. So that person has to go to a healer of the soul, and they will heal them by teaching them how to acquire proper traits until they can return to the good path. If they don't want to go to the healer, so then that's already another problem. As Solomon says in Proverbs, fools scorned wisdom and correction. So that's not a good thing. But every person wants to be healthy and strong and well. So therefore, we should all want to, if we know that we have a problem, which is the first step to realize that we might have an issue, then the next step is that we should go to a healer to be able to heal us and help us get to the correct path. So, what is the way to actually fix this? What is the way of healing? So, if there is a person who is very wrathful and very temperous, so then he has to turn himself to the full other way. He has to really do a full turn, all to the exact opposite, and really be very, very, almost have no reaction, so to speak, to if anyone does anything wrong to him, something that he doesn't like, in order that he should break and turn his heart in the other direction. And then, slowly he'll be able to come to a happy medium. So imagine if you have like a bar which is bent the wrong way. So if you just bend it back straight, it's going to go back. So you have to turn it the other way, and then it's going to go back to the middle. So similarly, the same idea with any trait that a person might have. If he's very prideful, he's feeling a little bit too good of himself, so then the person has to lower himself into the lowest of places, not to dress so fancy, and to get rid of the arrogance within his heart, so that he can go on the middle path and continue on like that for the rest of his life. So whichever trait it might be, he should always look, if he sees that it's something, a bad trait is very prevalent and is very strong within that person's heart. So then they should go to the exact opposite for some time, and then ultimately it's going to come to a happy medium. Then the Rambam says is that there are two character traits out of all of the various many ones that there are, that going in the happy medium could work, but it is better and it is encouraged to go all the way to the extreme of these. And these are arrogance and anger. These two character traits, if a person is able to push himself all the way down, that he will be the total opposite of arrogant, to be humble, and to be very humble. As it says about Moses, that Moses was extremely humble. He was the most humble man on the face of the earth. So that is a very encouraged thing. It's a very proper thing. As it says that the person, our sages have said that a person who is arrogant is as if he denies God's presence, because that person is saying, I am here, I am what is important, ultimately forgetting about God, who is above us all. And that should push us down a little bit, and we should have that humbleness in front of God's presence. As it says in the verse in Deuteronomy, and your heart will be haughty, and you will forget God your Lord. So if we become haughty, we feel ourselves too much, so then we forget about God. Similarly, also in regards to anger. Anger is a very bad quality to have. And even in a case when a person has to be angry, let's say a person is a teacher or a parent, or someone wronged them, and they have to show a certain sense of anger in order to rectify what was done wrong over here, or in order to teach that child or student, etc. So the Rambam says, on the inside, the person should be totally relaxed, very okay, in a very good mood. But he should make as if he is mad, as if he is angry, in order to teach them. But on the inside, he's not angry at all. And that's a very, very important thing. Our early sages have said, anyone who becomes angry is like one who worships idols. Because a person who becomes angry, the fact that he's becoming angry means that he's upset at what happened. Well, God makes everything happen. If we don't believe, if we become angry, it shows that we have a lack of faith. So therefore, it's as if that person is serving idols. And therefore, a person should never be really angry. And the way of the righteous people is that they are the ones who become who humiliated, but they do not humiliate anyone else. They are happy by their lot which God gives them. And those who love God, it says, is as if it's like the sun when it comes out of its strength. That's how God looks upon the righteous people who never become upset. It's a hard thing, absolutely, and we have to work on ourselves. But that's what the Rambam is here to tell us. Where we should strive to go. How we should want to live our lives. Then the Rambam continues into a very interesting trait which a person should work on himself. A person should always cultivate silence and refrain from speaking. It's a very interesting trait which not necessarily do we always think about. But if there's no reason to talk, don't speak. And especially when we're talking about idle speech. Speech that has no meaning to it. It's just, it's just the idle conversation, just passing the time. And it says about Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, who was one of the greatest Jewish rabbis in history. He wrote the Mishnah. It says about him that he never uttered an idle word in all his days. Which is what most of us are talking. That's what we talk about. Usually we ask, well, how are you? What's the weather like? What did the news say? Etc. So that's something which we should refrain from doing. It's a very positive thing not to be speaking about nothing. Even if it's about someone's physical needs, a person should only speak for what is needed. As our sages say, I have found nothing better for one's person than silence. Similarly, a teacher or anyone that is studying Torah or teaching anything, it says that when a person teaches, he should always teach in a short form. Never have excessive words. There's a certain idea which you're trying to teach and give over. Say it in the shortest possible form, without any excessive wording that will just complicate it. And the opposite, if someone is teaching their students and their words are many, but the content is a little bit, so then that is foolishness. So the Rambam says that silence is a safeguard for wisdom. So a person should never hasten to want to answer or to speak at length. A person should always teach and speak in tranquility without shouting and without excessive words. As it says, as King Solomon says in Ecclesiastes, the words of the wise are heard in tranquility. So there's never a reason to raise our voice or to scream, etc. So too also in regards to words, a person is forbidden to act in a smooth-tongued and luring manner. Meaning, whenever we speak, we should always be talking the truth. We should never have we should never have one thing in our heart and be saying something else. To have an ulterior motive, so to speak, in what we're talking about or for. So it's forbidden to deceive people. And the Rambam says, very interesting, that we're not allowed to deceive a non-Jew, meaning that if we're selling kosher meat, let's say, a person is selling and has an animal that he's slaughtering animals, and he has kosher animals and he has non-kosher animals. A person is not allowed to sell to a non-Jew who doesn't have a commandment of eating kosher animal, but that non-Jew wanted to buy kosher meat for whatever reason. So the Jew who is selling him that meat is not allowed to tell him, oh, this is kosher, even though it's not. That is called lying. Similarly with anything, we always have to be very careful not to deceive or do something which would imply something else than what we're actually trying, than the truth. For instance, a person should not invite his friend over to his house for dinner, so to speak, if he knows that he can't come, or he's not, or doesn't want to come. To try to imply a certain message. Similarly, back in the day they would have, or maybe even today as well, you have these big barrels of wine. So it's only on special occasions do we open up a new barrel. So the Rambam says that if it was a case that a person anyways had to open up a new barrel, and he opens it up when his friend comes, and he's like, oh, look, because how special it is that you came to my house, I'm opening up a new barrel. But that's not true, because he was anyways going to open it up. So again, these are small things, but they make a difference. And it's to be truthful and to be straight, to be truthful and proper, and not to trick, and not to try to do something which will imply something else. Continuing on, the Rambam tells us that a person should neither be constantly laughing and a jester, nor sad and depressed, but a person should always be happy. And it says that lightheadedness is a negative trait that can bring to lewdness, and we should always be in the happy medium, and to always be kind-faced and happy, but again in a relaxed, friendly manner. Similarly, a person should not be greedy, rushing for wealth and possessions, nor lazy and not wanting to work. Rather, we should be with a good eye, and a person should limit their business endeavors so that they should have time to study Torah and to be a good person. And we should be happy with their lot. That pretty much sums it all up. And similarly, a person should not be quarrelsome and have a strong temper or full of desires or pursue honor. As our sages say, envy, desire, and honor remove a man from life in this world. And the Rambam finishes off by saying, the general principle is that one should follow the midpoint equally of every type of quality, every temperament, until all his traits are aligned at the midpoint. Except for those two which we said earlier, that in regards to temper and arrogance, a person should try to push it all the way to the bottom. And as Solomon says in Proverbs, make even the turning of your foot and make all your ways firm. By this, summing up, that a person should always have an even way and an even path in the way they live their life. And that is, my friends, the chapter of Rambam for today, where we learn of how we should all live our lives, not by being full of hot air and doing things that are a waste of time, but rather we should focus and know where the goal of life and where we are headed, and therefore how we should live our life in the most proper way in order to be able to live a good, God-fearing life as a good, upright citizen. So, l'chaim, my friends. You should have a very good week, and God willing, we will continue tomorrow.